I started to make this video just playing the old Murray High drum cases. I still am going to do that, but it might be the last time I can tell this story to my kids. What I'm going to talk about here is me and my drum. You know that sound go rumpa-bum-bum, rumpa-bum-bum. That's really all I had. So I'm talking about back in the 1960s in St. Augustine, Florida, where it was segregated. Blacks and whites were separated. I'm not talking about St. Augustine downtown where the tourists would come down to the seawall and see the Spanish architecture. I'm talking about Lincolnville, a little section that was separated by obvious borders. You could walk the whole community in probably about an hour. And Lincolnville had this square. It was like from Rayberry Street on the west side. Bridge Street went northward, represent the north border. It went east toward Washington Street. Washington Street went down to South Street, and South Street connected to Liberia. And that little small section of St. Augustine, they called it Lincolnville. It was a time of oppression. It was hard to motivate yourself. I had one thing that motivated me as a kid that I can think about, and it was the Richard J. Murray High Bulldogs Marching 100. I used to follow that band down the road during the parades, listening to the drum section. When you were downtown during the Easter parade and Christmas parade, you could hear all the floats, see all the floats coming by and all the horses and other bands. But then the distance, you could hear this thing coming down the road, that sound that's so powerful. And what it was that historically black college theme that Richard J. Murray High drum section projected. It was one of power. I wanted to be a part of it so bad. But I was a young kid. This is 1967 and 68 when I finally got to Murray High. I wanted to play in the Murray High Marching 100. Then I found out you can't play in the Marching 100 unless you're in 10th grade. I was in 7th grade. Never would have had a chance to do this. But one thing happened. This thing happened with one of the drummers in the Marching 100 broke his wrist. And during this time, I met a lot of people who were a lot older than me. I was 11 years old in 67. But that band had people in it that to me were great, but they were just students like I was. But I was a little boy. People like Lamar Williams, who was the first black person that I knew of that got killed in Vietnam, I think, before Leo C. Chase. He played bass drum. Had Nippy playing tuba. You had Daniel Corbett, that's drum major. You had John Milligan playing trumpet. You had these girls like Josh Russell and Trudy Thompson, and they were playing flute and bell lyres. I'm this little boy and I can't participate in it. But I remember these big kids, I always wanted to be a part of them so bad. You had drum section leaders like Andre Williams, who was the section leader, and Marcellus Brown, who was the rank leader. They called Andre Privet. At the time, I didn't understand the connection, but he was parodied after Andre Privet, the great classical composer. Marcellus, another out of the mind, they called him Chess. But you had Vernon Stroman, you had Herbert Duncan, Barry Scott, Richard McKnight. You had Kenny Moore and Tommy Gardner playing bass drum. You had all these people who were a lot older than me, and I couldn't participate. But one day, in 67 or 60, I can't remember the exact day, but Vernon Stroman broke his wrist. Murray High was an exact copy of FAMU. During this time of oppression, that school motivated a lot of students to go on to secondary education at FAMU, at Morris Brown, at South Carolina State. Some might even went to Grambling and Morehouse. I'm not sure. I was a little boy. I was 11 years old. They're all teenagers. But Vernon broke his arm, and Murray High had 8 snare drummers on the first row. In the second row, it was 4 tenor drummers, it was 2 bass drummers, and 2 cymbal players. They're all sophomores, seniors, and juniors. When Vernon broke his arm, I remember, I'll never forget it. We were behind Murray High Gym next to the band room. Mr. Brady told Marcellus and and Andre to go out there and get a drummer. So we all had to challenge each other. I was so scared. All these big boys who could play, who had girlfriends, and all this stuff. I'm just a little boy, don't know nothing. And they start going around this, we had to make a big drum circle. And Andre would say, play so and so and so and so. I was shaking. I remember I had to hold my legs still, I was shaking so much. But Andre said, Scott, they never called me Michael, they called me Scott. I said, Scott, play changing formations. Formations is when you're on the football field at halftime and you're doing precision drills where you're marching 8 to 5 and you're making these decorations of the band members to make objects on the field for the people in the stands to be able to see. And when you go from one formation to the next, you had to change the formation drum cadence. So he said, play changing formations. I said, okay. So I went. So bad, I was just embarrassed. Everybody's playing. All these other drummers are way older than me. Then Andre told everybody, play number 2. They played it. Okay, you play it, Scott. So I was still scared. So what I did was, I went. Got the girlfriends all whistling for them. Everybody not saying nothing about me. I'm just a little boy, 11 years old, trying to compete. Then I just said, okay, somebody play South Carolina State. Nobody said anything. I said, I'll play it. Then I went. I knew all those cadences because I followed that band down the road during parades. I was walking along the drum section. I could hear what they was playing. I heard it for years, from 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. I listened to it. And I would go home on Robbery Street, living in the march like I did. I was embarrassed about where I lived. My parents were poor. Kids would come by, going to the local grocery store because it was all segregated. Then we had our own store called Swilly's. And they'd pass by the house and they made fun of me. They would call me the Beverly Hillbillies because we had a house with no paint on it. And in our house we had to pull a lanyard for the lamps and for the lights. We didn't have flip switches like everybody else on the wall. So they made fun of me. And when they go to the store, made fun of me. When they come back by, I would stand outside the yard playing my drum, doing all kinds of things while they passed by, looking at them, doing stuff like. That made me feel better about myself. Back to Murray High, I was telling the story about being behind the gym, by the band room. So Andre said, okay, everybody better know how to play this next drum beat. He said, I want you to told him, I was always last. He said, I want to hear y'all play number 7. I knew what it was. The big boys, they were playing all right. They couldn't play it. He said, play it, Scott. So I went. But then Andre said, okay, play Bethune-Cookman. He didn't ask the rest of them, he told me to play it. I just played one, play Bethune-Cookman. I said, okay, I played, I went. Okay, Scott, I want you to play FAMU. Not coming off the field, the street cadence. It's a difference in the two, I knew that. So the street cadence for FAMU was a lot slower than coming off the field. It went like this. Now, at the football games, everybody came to see our band the same way people go to see FAMU band at halftime. Marching 100 Bulldogs, marching 100 Rattlers. Orange and green, we was orange and green. So my drum was orange and green. But coming off the field, FAMU had a fast cadence. And sometimes when they get ready to blow the whistle, Andre would say, tell the drum majors, let's run them off the field. Now, if he said that, that means you gotta play it real fast. I'm talking about fast, like FAMU fast. So one day, I said, I gotta be able to play fast, because he might ask me to play it at some point in time. Luckily, I was ready for it. So FAMU coming off the field is this. I was supposed to play West Point in the circle. Suddenly, when everybody else playing with me, they kept calling my name. West Point was. high school in Jacksonville that competed with us, Murray High, Rain, Stance, Matthew, Gilbert. Everybody had the little HBCU beats, but Stanton had this beat right here. So we did that, and we went inside. So I was just happy to be participating, showing I could play. I just couldn't wait till I got in 10th grade. I'm in 7th grade, I'm 11 years old. I already faced the fact I got to get a beginner's band. 7th, 8th, 9th grade at Murray High, you had to be a beginner's band. But all those beat boys who were not in the Marching 100, they were the equipment personnel at the games. They had to put the yard marker down on the field, and they had to pick up the plumes. They couldn't have a snare drum like I did. But we went inside that day, and apparently Andre and Marcel told Mr. Brady that they wanted Scott to be the drummer. And I couldn't believe it. They didn't have a uniform that I could wear. The smallest uniform was too big. My grandma had to take it in her room with her hands with needle and thread, trying to sew that thing down small enough for me to fit. And it still was too big for me. But that made me feel so good during the time of oppression, when it was segregation and legal. So I'm at Murray High thinking my world's going to change. And then something happened in 69 and 70. They integrated the city. Murray High no longer was going to be a school. The very year I was going to go to 10th grade, I knew I would have been section leader or rank leader along with Richard McKnight. I knew it. And it ended. And from that day in 9th grade to this one, I have never played in another marching band. And these rhythms I'm playing, these cases I'm playing right now, I learned these cases when I was in 6th grade. And I still remember them. So I hope that some of my friends who still have their drums, we can get together and maybe play in an Easter parade or a Christmas parade in St. Augustine, recognizing the tremendous impact that Richard J. Murray High Bulldogs football team, school, teachers, and principals had on the life of those young oppressed black people. Some of them went on to do great things. We don't know about them. Some of them went on to have upper class lives, lower upper class, and maybe even upper class lives. But you couldn't do it there in St. Augustine under that oppression. That's what I remember most about playing this drum. How it made me feel. How the black colleges during that time were all about step teams and doing things that make you feel good about yourself. That's gone now. When I hear drum sections now, they got these big tall drums. They're really, really tight. The sticks don't sink down in the head anymore. It just sounds like you're playing on wood. This old school drum I got, the stick sinks down in the head when you play it, like this. It's going down in that head, coming back out. Now it's like playing on wood. It's no more the old school. So if any of the drummers from the Murray High 1968 to 1970 are still around, let's get together and play the parade. It's one last time. And I'll come off the field one last time with the Murray High imitation of FAMU Marching 100 Rattlers leaving the field.